welcome back to Tuesday Talks with Teena. We are going into week 10 and we're talking about how to stop guilty eating. If you're new to Tuesday Talks, we take inventory every week on our current habits and we try to add healthier habits. And then we're working on developing consistent routines so that way we can reach our health goals. So thank you so much for joining us in our week 10. We're going to get going with some housekeeping as well in a second. This is a weekly intentional fitness focused self-care. So if you have our journal, thank you so much for downloading it. If you have not, you still can download. So I am your host, Teena. I'm a business owner, certified trainer, and health coach. I am currently serving in the Air National Guard, and I'm an advocate for women finding balance because we wear so many hats. A quick disclaimer. So I did state that I am certified, but I am not a medical professional. So before you start any new fitness routine, I do advise that you consult with your primary care physician before starting anything new. This funding for this initiative is provided in part by Mission Ambition LLC and Teena Cathay Lifestyle LLC. Also, we have many military women participating in this series, thanks to the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services through the Community Mental Health Association of Michigan. They are providing additional funding for this initiative through a federal community mental health block grant and a substance abuse prevention and treatment block grant supporting Women Veterans Strong. All right, just a couple guidelines, short and sweet. Please be respectful to yourself and others, no selling or soliciting, and then do not judge anyone else, and yourself is included in that. To this, we're going to go and do a quick recap on what we talked about last week. We talked about tips for consistent accountability. We talked about behaviors for lasting progress, how to stay consistent in poor weather, and then working through an injury, and gave different modifications on how to do that if you are dealing with an injury. Because no matter what, we don't want anything to stop our health progress and staying active in some way, shape, or form. All right, so let's get into lesson 1. What is guilty eating? If you're someone or you know someone who has guilt when they eat, they're mainly focusing on the bad and good foods. And we put quotes around that because there's essentially no such thing as good and bad per se. Like, food is food, but then there's different companies, there's so much stigma, miseducation around food, and trends happen all the time. So one year a food might be bad, and then another year it might be good. But putting that label on it, it can bring a lot of anxiety and stress. So we don't want to put it in one category or the other. Food is food. We just want everyone to be more educated and more well-versed on what is best for your health and development and growth and all those good things. If you are someone who experiences guilty eating, you might feel shame after eating something. It could be something that you absolutely love, like your favorite food, but then after you eat it, you're like, man, I feel bad for eating that, and I wish I didn't. And you tend to dwell on things like that throughout your day, which is not good for your mental health. There might be anxiety associated with eating out. So you might feel overwhelmed with the choices you have. You're not sure what to pick. You might be going through a weight loss journey right now. So you're just kind of overwhelmed with what to pick. Is it good? Is it too much salt? Is it too much fat? Is the serving size too much? So that is something that can also cause guilty eating. And then dwelling on what you have eaten and then how much you have eaten. So things like that can also cause guilty eating. So if you're constantly thinking about food in general, or you're just trying to, you're worrying too much about how much, you're being nitpicky about the serving sizes, and you're not fully enjoying eating and you're not fully enjoying those around you that you're eating with, because eating can be social and it's a good thing to be social. But if we're having a lot of stress and anxiety and guilt around eating, then it's probably not a good thing for you. Before we go into our lesson, our journal prompt, did anyone have questions about guilty eating? Let me give you a little stat here too. So according to an article in the New York Post, nearly a third of all Americans feel guilty about what they eat, according to research. And Americans feel guilty about 29% of the food that they eat on average. So with that being said, we're going to go into our first journal prompt. What foods do you feel guilty about eating? We're going to share after, but if you don't want to share, that's absolutely fine. We're going to take 2 minutes to write that down, your thoughts and feelings on whether or not you feel guilty about eating. And again, there's no shame in this. It's just to basically take inventory to see where you are. So you guys can take those 2 minutes and start jotting that down. One more minute. Alrighty, that is our time. So our journaling question, the first one was, what foods do you feel guilty about eating? Would anyone like to share their thoughts? Go ahead, Christina.
Mine is chocolate chip cookies, candy, brownies, ice cream. But for the month of February, I'm trying to give up all sweets. And so far, it's been going good, just to see how my body reacts to it.
Okay, good for you. So you got a sweet tooth, it sounds like.
Yes.
Christina, I'm with you. I put down, I feel guilty about eating too many. I mean, typically I can sit down and have like 2, maybe 4 cookies, but if I go past that, I'm in trouble. Especially gluten-free Oreo cookies. Chips, crackers, and candy I put down, and anything processed can give me digestive issues and or constipation. And then I put down, I also feel guilty about drinking like alcohol. My husband and I are on a 40-day fast. Everybody did dry January, but we're doing dry February/March. So anyways, that's another big guilt thing for me.
Thank you both so much for sharing. That is definitely typical. A lot of people have issues with those sweets and those sugars, the alcohol, because that sugar is in everything. So once your body gets used to it, it starts craving it. And so, Christina, you stated that you are like letting go everything cold turkey to see how your body reacts to it. That is, it's challenging, and I commend you for doing that, but it is a smart thing to do, because you'll start to see how your body feels and reacts without feeding it that sugar. And then you start getting more nutrients in place of that sugar, like more fiber. Maybe you lacked on greens or whatnot. So in that way, it can help with whatever your health goal is. But my question to both of you is, I know you probably altered this currently, but when you were having those challenges and you felt guilty eating those sweets or that having that alcohol, did you have all your favorite things in your house where it was easily accessible?
Yes, of course.
Especially over the holidays, because not
Yeah.
only do I buy stuff for other people, but other people buy stuff for me. And yeah, I actually have a drawer that I keep stuff in my bedroom because my husband and son will like devour it within a week's time. And I'm a little bit better at kind of spreading it out, and I will share with them, but yeah, it just depends how generous I'm feeling.
Keeping it in the house where it's accessible. Now, it's because my point is to say that you can have the treats that you like. The issue comes when we have it like in arm's reach. You can just get up and go to the kitchen. You have a whole bag of it, or you have a whole bottle. That's when it gets dangerous. Because then if you have your favorite thing in your house, and I say this from experience, it's like you're not most likely not going to just have one drink or one piece of candy or chocolate, because it's like it's your favorite. You might like the way it makes you feel after you've eaten it. So just moving forward, when you guys come out of your fast or you stop your cold turkey challenge, if you do go back to those sweets or the alcohol, then just keep that in mind. Maybe not have it where it's so accessible. Maybe leave it at the store and you have to go to the store to get it, and then don't bring the bag back in the house. All right, ladies, good stuff. Let's go on to part 2 of our lesson, how to eat the foods you love. So this is kind of piggybacking off of what I literally just said about not having it so accessible, so easy and within arm's reach for you to have the foods that you love. Because it's like, if you love it, if it brings some type of joy, if it brings some kind of good feeling, then you do want to have that around. But again, it's going to be it comes down to moderation and not going too far left to where we having that guilty feeling. So a few things that we can do is slow down. So when you're eating that favorite thing, and I have to tell my 4-year-old this all the time, because she'll just like eat super fast depending on what it is. And she's like, can I have more? I'm like, well, slow down eating first and then go. You can probably have more, but slow down, see how your tummy feels, because she'll eat. And then she's like, Mommy, my tummy hurts. And it's probably because you ate too fast and you're trying to get seconds. And I know you love it, but let's slow it down a little bit. So try that. Slow down what you're eating, savor the flavor of the moment. Practice portion control. This one is going to be good because you should do that anyway, because that's what's going to help with maintaining a healthy weight and also weight loss, is having those smaller portions. So you can look on the back of the package of whatever your treat is and go off of the serving size. So you'll probably be surprised, like you'll have a whole candy bar, but the serving size is like two squares on that bar. So then maybe you're supposed to be eating that throughout the week and not just a whole bar every time you want one. So just keep that in mind as well. Take a look at that serving size on the nutrition label on your favorite treats or alcohol. And then eat more fiber. If you are filling yourself up with more fibrous foods, then you are going to be too full to try to like fill yourself with the treat that you're wanting. Also, counting calories. If you're counting calories, and I'll just keep saying weight loss because that's just a larger common thing. If you're trying to lose weight and you're counting calories, you can have your favorite food. It just has to fit within that amount of calories that you're supposed to consume in that day. If it doesn't fit, then that means you can't eat it. Or if you make it fit, you can eat it. And then same thing with counting macros. We talked about this with our I think it was 2 weeks ago when we talked about accountability and using apps and trackers and things like that. So you can use apps like MyFitnessPal to keep track of your macros and your calories. You can scan the barcode if you have the premium version, or you can type it in however you want to do it, put that amount in, and it can let you know how many calories it is or how many if you're going to go over your macros, and you can actually fit it into your daily eating. So in that way, you're not going to miss out on your favorite food. All right, so we're going to go into our next journal prompt. So the question is, what feeling or emotion do you associate with those foods? So this is going off of the answer you had in the first question. So you have the foods that you wrote down that you feel guilty about eating. So now let's dive a little deeper, take some inventory, and talk about the feeling or emotion that you associate with these foods. It can be, it makes you feel good. It can bring about a feeling of nostalgia. It might be something you used to eat like with your grandparents, or a significant other, or just it might have something associated with it. That's why it might be your favorite. So let's take 2 minutes and write that down, and then we'll come back and chat about it. One more minute, ladies. All right, let's talk about it. Who would like to share? What feelings or emotions do you associate with those foods that you wrote down in the first part of our journaling prompt?
It tastes good. I just love the way it tastes. Like, I don't know if you ever had a Costco chocolate chip cookie, but to me, they make the best chocolate chip cookies. And it just tastes good.
You know, I just put down comfort, taste, nostalgia, aromatic, and cheating or getting away with something. I also can feel like peer pressure, like as far as like the alcohol or like somebody brings out cookies at their house or, brings them over to my house and stuff like that. Sometimes I just feel like, oh gosh, well, everybody else is having one. I'll just have one. So that's an excuse, but that's how I feel sometimes.
So let's talk about that, because that's a huge one. That is that social aspect to how we consume our food and how much is a thing, Susan. So I hope if you're feeling guilty and bad about it, I'm sorry that you do. You too, Christina, if you have this, if it brought up something for you as well. I don't want you guys to feel guilty about that. A lot of people do that. And again, it's that social aspect. Everyone around us is doing it. Everyone else around me is eating and drinking. So it makes it not only harder for you to say no and resist, because then you probably, I don't know about you, you probably have people around you, especially if you're around family, like, oh, why aren't you eating my cooking? Or you should taste this. And it might be something new that you've never tried, so you want to try it. So it's all these feelings and emotions and shame or peer pressure around food, and other people add to that as well. It is definitely a thing. Even outside of the holidays, what do we got this weekend? We have Super Bowl coming up. So that's about to be a whole nother thing of food and peer pressure and that social association with food. But if you want to try something, maybe try cutting it in half and maybe not have a whole cookie and maybe have a half a cookie, or eat the cookie and not feel guilty about eating the cookie, and maybe try not to go overboard with eating your sweets and those treats and things like that. Think about it like this. The cookie is going to give you that comfort, that feel good, yes, but ask yourself the question, what is it doing for my goal? So if you have a goal in mind, just keep asking yourself that question every time you want to overconsume. And again, I'm not saying do not consume. The thing is when we do it too much and too often. So ask yourself that question. What is this going to do for my goal? You all stated that you have a goal. You wrote them down. Everyone's is different. Everyone's probably changed because you might have hit one, you might have added another. But just continue to ask yourself that question throughout your journey. I still ask myself that question.
I put down too, when I'm coping with something that I don't understand or I'm fearful about, it just kind of makes me feel like, oh, I'm having this, so it's a special treat and I don't have to worry about it. And it kind of just takes my mind to like, I got control. And it's actually the total opposite. And the same thing with the drinking, like around friends, I'm learning how to find beverages like kombucha. I love kombucha and I really need it for my digestion. So I will take like a bottle or two with me. And like you said, it has a little bit more sugar in it that I would like. But when you compare it to mixed drink or a beer or whatever, you're really not having that much more. And I think my biggest challenge right now is getting back into keeping track of my calories.
So thank you so much for sharing. Good talks, ladies. Let's go into our last and final lesson. So we're going to talk about how to build a healthy relationship with food. So if you are feeling guilty and you have anxiety, there's some kind of shame, or you only eating or drinking something because you're being social, that isn't necessarily a good relationship with food. We want to look at food as a way of sustenance, a survival, something to help keep us healthy, but not have those negative feelings around it. A couple of things we could do. We can find a better balance with food. So as I stated earlier, maybe not bring the things you're going to overeat into the household because it's not making us feel good. And I think Susan stated this earlier. She said that when she's going through something, she uses it to have like control, but she also said it's probably an excuse. And you're probably right, because you're just using it as a way to cope. Maybe find a different way to cope and deal with whatever that you're going through in that moment. Because sometimes we eat or overconsume because we're asleep. Then try to take a nap. Maybe you're lacking water. Little do a lot of people know, your body's trigger for more water is actually the same as hunger. So there's no separation. There's no like different bell that goes off like I'm hungry, and there's no different bell that says I'm thirsty. It's gonna feel and sound the same, except for the stomach growling, obviously. But maybe you're not drinking enough water. So try to drink some more water, spice it up with some flavor, add some fizzy water to supplement if water is boring to you. Try things like that. Also pay attention to your triggers. So I mentioned one before. So sleep is a trigger. If you are eating and over consuming because you're sleepy, then go to sleep if it's possible in that moment. Then also if you are feeling emotional, you're dealing with high emotions and you're down, maybe try some breathing exercises, maybe try some meditation, stop, slow down before you go to reach to food. We tend to always reach for food and alcohol as our coping, and maybe try the breathing, maybe try to go for a walk and things like that to see how that feels. So education about nutrition. Something like this is good because then you get little nuggets and tidbits, and then you get other resources to go look at. My Fitness Pal is a good one. My Plate is a good one. There's all types of websites that you can check out to just further educate yourself. No one's saying become a nutritionist overnight, but the more educated we are about the food that we eat and what it does to our body, it helps a lot. So just try to educate yourself a little bit more about what you're eating and what's in your food. That can help. And then add variety. Sometimes we get so stuck in one way of eating. Try maybe another cultural foods, maybe try another culture's food. And then also try different herbs, spices. Susan, you mentioned aromatics. That's a great way to try different foods and different flavors, scents and smells and things like that, just to spice it up for yourself so you're not getting so bored, because that could be an issue as well. Or a reason why you don't have a good relationship with food. You could just be bored with what you've been eating. So try to think outside the box. Go on Pinterest or like Instagram, things like that. They have really good accounts and sites that have different recipes that you can try, and they're not super complicated and they're easy that you can do. And you might find a new food, nutritious food that you discover that you like a lot. All right, so we're going to go into our last and final journal prompts. Again, these are all piggybacking off of each other, just having you keep diving deeper into that question of, so this one is, why do these foods bring about the feelings you mentioned in the previous question? So let's take a few minutes to do that and just think about why these feelings come up. One minute. All righty. Would you like to share why do these foods bring about the feelings you mentioned above?
Well, I put memorable moments can be associated with like the holidays or like certain foods for camping, and when I'm around certain people, like certain people I don't drink around, certain people, you know, I, I might feel like I have a little bit more respect for them. And if like they eat good, then I want to be eating good. And my mom and my sister and people sometimes when I've gone out with people because I've given up gluten for 10 years now, they all like look at me. My mom would used to ask me, like, do I have to have a salad tonight? I'm like, Mom, I'm not the food police.
I get that. That is definitely a thing. I get it. I've made it a point and a choice to make sure I'm always operating in moderation, and then also learning to say no to people when they try to offer me drinks or certain types of foods. And if there's certain types of foods that I like, I'm going to try to enjoy them within reason. All right. So we talked a lot about like guilt and shame within eating. So I just want to provide like the hotline number to national eating disorders. So if you or someone you know needs help with eating disorder, you can call this number for help or give them that number. It's the number for the National Eating Disorders Association helpline. It's 1-800-931-2237. That's 1-800-931-2237. So eating disorders, because guilty eating or shame or anxiety could be something bigger. So just in case, here's a number to get your self-help or someone else. All right, great job, ladies. Thank you so much for joining me. Let's go into our word of the week. Our word of the week is delight, and that means great pleasure. So associating that with food, I would love you guys to enjoy the foods that you love and take delight in that and have all the feels and good joys and not have the guilt and shame associated with it, because that's not living. So we want to enjoy the things that we love, again, within moderation and good reason. Also, our affirmation of the week. So you see how I flipped it? We're doing affirmations now. I think that you guys have a great hold on being active, and I will still remind you to stay active. You guys have your routines down and your classes you attend, but now let's dive more into more of the mental side of it. So we're going to go into affirmations. So your affirmation for this week is, I will give myself grace. You can write that down in your notebook, write it on a sticky note, put it on your bathroom windows, and that way you see it every day, or you can put it on the mirror of your room. Just to remind yourself to give yourself grace. No guilt, no shame. Let's let all that go. All right. And then next week, we're going to talk about, for our topic, is how to stop negative body talk. We talked this week about guilt and shame around food. So let's talk about body positivity. All right. And then, per usual, we'll see you next Tuesday, 11:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Scan the QR code, invite another sister friend, so then that way she can be a part of the family and also take her own healthy journey as well. And we thank you so much for being here with us. If you guys have any questions, do not hesitate to reach out, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you, Teena.
Thank
Have
you,
a great
Susan.
week.
Thanks, you too as well.
Bye for now.
Bye.